Today, we're talking about creating time with Google Workspace. If you have never seen Google Workspace before, I spoke about this briefly before when we had half the amount of participants in the call. So Google Workspace I think it was about four or 5 years ago, it was renamed from Google Suite. So Google Suite is what it used to be called, and now it is Google Workspace. So Google Workspace is everything that is docs, sheets, slides, and now Google Vids. Anything that sort of sits within that application space of Google is what exists within Google Workspace. I've done this presentation a couple of times in a few different forums. And one of the things I really like to highlight within here is that there are some really cool time-saving features that actually exist within Google Workspace. And so I love doing this webinar. As generally, I find people take one thing out of it, at least, that is something new that they have heard that they may not have known about before. Before we start there, though, one thing I just always like when we're talking about this, it's important for us to recognize about sharing in Google Drive. And so I just wanted to point this out at the start, is that when we have a file or a folder, we can select share and then share again. And you can sort of see that on my screen there. And when we're doing that, this is how we share files with people. One of the things that is really, I guess, something for us to be mindful of is how we're sharing files. And this exists over in other application platforms as well. But your default mechanism for sharing stuff is with restricted. So what restricted means is, as you can see on my screen, that currently you have myself, like my name, and you've also got the digital skills name there. And what that means is that if anyone ever got that link, so the other people in this call, if I sent you the link to that document that I'm sharing, which was a webinar on the 1st of November, if it was restricted, you could click on the link, but it would actually just say that you've got no access. And in general, your other option there is to click on the next one down, which is Department for Education SA. But I just want you to be wary about that, because what that now means is that any user can access what is being shared. And what I mean by that is any user within the Department for Education. So that is staff and students. And one of the things I like to point out here as well is that by selecting that option, sometimes it can be searchable, which means that sometimes those documents can actually come up in searches, depending on what some other settings are. But also that as a result of that you might think that that's appropriate for your school. But just a reminder that our parents are sometimes teachers as well, or staff in the Department for Education as well. So sometimes, we might do that with, a student's work, and we accidentally click on Department for Education. But if another parent somehow got access to that link, that they would now have access to that file. So it's just something to be careful of. So how might we do that a bit differently? Well, what we can actually do is you can go to groups.google.com, and you can actually all do this now. If you open up a new tab, go to groups.google.com, you can actually find which groups you're a part of. And I find this really useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to exit out of this presentation quickly. Hang on. And you should be able to see my screen. Beautiful. And if we go to groups.google.com, okay, and what you can see is the groups that you are a part of once this loads up. And so you can see that I'm a part of this all corporate staff group. I'm also a part of this all staff because I'm a staff member at Department for Education. I'm also in the digital guarantee unit, and I'm also in this other group. Hopefully that makes sense to you. On your screen, what should you see? Well, what you should see, and I've got a document for this. I'm just going to quickly find it for you. Is that in general, when schools have groups, that these are the groups that they can actually see. And so hopefully you can see that on my screen. So your groups should be GRP_site ID. So whatever your site ID is, and then it will, whatever ending depends on what sort of group you're in. But I always find that useful for people to know that all of these groups actually exist. Now, these are all automatically created. So these aren't controlled by your site. what these are is it's all based on your role. So leadership staff is all leaders at your site, the IT team at your site, all teaching staff, all ancillary or support staff, all staff and students. And then you've also got all of the year level groups as well that exist within students. Hopefully that makes sense. So I would always go through this list and have a look at your site. So you can actually search for your site within that groups.google.com website and actually find where you're at. So one of my old schools, as you know, I said before, was Murray High. So if I search for Murray High, I could actually see all the groups that exist there. So then how do I share with that group? Well, if I click share up here, and you can see that my setting for this file is currently set for Department for Education SA. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to give you access to that right now so that you have access to this document, and you can just pin it somewhere so that you so that you have access to it later. Couple of different ways to do that. So let's say that we are looking for this. We might go group, Norwood International High School, and you can see there, we can go and click on that one, and then we're only sharing it with them. Hopefully that makes sense. The other one that I was just going to point out as a bit of a, hey, this is a time-saving thing, is also, if you didn't know, but that star button there actually stars that in your Google Drive. So if you're in this document, I can see quite a few of you have jumped in here now. If you click on that star button in your drive, that will then show up in the starred files section of Google Drive for you. So this could be a good one for you to have. Feel free to make a copy. I'm pretty sure you have access to that. I've made it for a couple of schools and sort of gotten rid of the site ID part and actually put your site ID in, and then share it with your teachers and your staff members at your school. Please don't give it to students. I don't think they need to know how to share with staff. Yeah, anyway, we don't need to talk anymore about that, but I just don't think that needs to happen. Okay, hopefully that's all okay with everyone. What else can we do? So we can also now this is a brand new feature that sort of came in about 6 months ago. You may have used a different product such as DocuSign, or, there's other things embedded that we might pay for in schools. I think this is a really good one which is that we now have e-signatures. I've tried this out, so I'm not just talking about something that doesn't work. The only hard part is actually if you were to do it with families, you just have to work out how to get them access to that, and that would be through a support ticket through Edit. But this is a new feature within Google Docs, and it's actually really cool. So what it does is, maybe I'll just show you in a blank document here. We'll just jump into this one. And if I just put some sort of text in here, and then what we can do is, sorry, whoops, what am I doing? So I've got a few options in here. So you can see approvals here. Sorry, just hang on. And then we've got tools, e-signatures. So we can go and click on that. And then what we can do is we can say, hey, I want you guys to fill out my form. Now, obviously my form doesn't have anything here, but I'll show you an example. So what we might do is we might say, hey, I want a signature there. And then I want to put the date signed. That's going to be an auto field. You can see that there. And then what happens is we can request that e-signature, and you can go and put the participant's email address in there and get them to fill it out. One of the really cool things about this is you can see down here, it says, once requested, a PDF of this Google Doc will be created and shared with participants to sign. So what actually happens is it looks exactly like those forms that you may have done with a bank recently or anything like that. And it actually puts all the data at the bottom to tell you exactly when that person signed it and when you requested the signature. So it's a really cool alternative that means that you're sticking within that Google platform rather than going out to an external application that might cost you money or anything like that. So that's one thing, e-signatures. Next one, I sort of alluded to this before, approvals in Docs. I've used this before in schools. I think this is a really cool one to use. I've particularly used it, just a bit of a use case for you guys, is looking at a leadership group signing off on a policy or a procedure that we might go after. So at my previous school, we were sort of looking at a change to the reporting platform, and I used it to basically get the executive team to sign off that that is what we were going to do, and then presented that to staff, and then staff can actually see that a group of people have actually signed off on that. The thing I love about the approvals process is this sort of highlighted feature I've got here. And that is that if, let's say that we've got people on this call and one of you signs off and says, yep, I'm all happy with what that document does. And then another person goes and edits the document, the person who signed off, your approval actually disappears because the document has now changed. So you haven't actually approved the thing that is now there because there's been edits made to that. So I like it because what it does is it sort of prompts people to have a think about it and only approve the document that is most current. What this saves, think about the time saving benefits to this. Like, this is going to save, emails flying around with static documents that previously that's how we, do this sort of stuff. It's also, I've thought about it as like a staff cohort agreeing to a new direction. You might be talking about how you're going to use Google Workspace in your school, and you might want to put together a bit of a policy around that. The other feature that I like about it is you can either have it, as I said, where there was editing and feedback able to be given, or you can actually completely lock it down, which means that they are literally approving the document that as it currently sent, and actually locks that document. The other part to this is once everyone has approved it, the document actually comes with a bar at the top that says that that document has now been locked. And you actually, as the owner of that document, have to unlock that. Why that is good is because if you're doing this for staff approval processes, if staff go back into it and see it's unlocked, they sort of know that that's under review. So yeah, one of those other sort of little other processes that are useful, I think, in Google Docs as well. Another one, this is a brand new one to Google Slides, and they've now got templates finally. You guys might have been using Google Slides for a while, and the template options were limited, to say the least. So what we now have is when we go and create a new one, and I want to be careful about how to do this, but hang on, let me just open up a new tab. By the way, something new for you guys to learn, slides.new is a little quick tip for you. If you go through any of the Google applications and put a .new on the end, it actually makes a brand new copy of that thing that you're saying. So slides.new means a brand new Google slideshow. I'll show you. If I go docs.new, brand new Google Doc opens up. Okay. Really bad for demonstrations because I end up with heaps of untitled presentations and untitled documents sitting in my Google Drive, but have a go at that. So apologies for the speed of the connection here. This is funny. So this is opening up a new presentation, and what you'll see now is that this templates pane opens up over here, and hopefully you'll notice that these look completely different to what Google slide decks used to look like. Like there are, you used to have some pretty standard ones before, and it is completely different now. So you've got heaps and heaps of stuff in there. I'm on a trivia game, and it's very similar to how other applications work as well. Like Canva, is that you can choose to just insert one slide or all the slides as well. See, I've just put in one, or I could just say, hey, no, I want all of that template sitting in there for me, please. Thank you. But hopefully you can see this looks a little bit better than what it used to look like before. Another thing they've started doing is these little tiles. These are like little placeholders, so you can go and replace the image as well. So think about how that could be applicable in your teacher context. If some of you are teachers, is that you can send this out as in Google Classroom, make a copy for each student, leave that sort of replace image tile in there, and then the kids can actually have their own flavor on what that document actually looks like. So yeah, new templates sitting in within slides. Pretty cool. Just some other time-saving tips in Google Workspace. I wasn't sure exactly what to go through in this session, to be honest with you, because I was like, there's so many things that I could actually show. I like this one. I think this one's really cool. So bit of background about me. I'm a senior chemistry teacher. So this might not be applicable to you if you're particularly in a primary school, like you don't really have time off to be able to have kids to come see you. But if you're a senior teacher, one of the things I used to love doing is just doing like a drop-in session and just blanking out these times in my calendar that I could actually send a link out. The cool thing about it is it creates unique meet links if you want them to be virtual. I even did it for parent meetings as well. And what I would do is our school would have their own platform, like that might be school interviews or something like that. But then I would also send out another link and say, hey, if you can't make my parent-teacher interviews, use this link and you can book in another time. And you can actually define the times, much like other applications. You can say, hey, I only want to be available on, Tuesday, March 25 from 4:30 until 5:30. And that is the only time slot that person will see when you send that link out. But yeah, the other cool thing is users don't need to have a Google account to do this. So it's actually just a link and it shows you a page that they can go and sign up to. So yeah, I'm not going to show it to you now because I haven't pre-done it, which means you can see all of my meetings. So what does it look like? So how do we do it? We go to calendar.google.com, click on create, click the appointment schedule there, and then follow the prompts and select which other calendars you want to show as busy. One of the ones I do is I actually import my Outlook calendar into Google Calendar so that all of my times actually match up on both calendars so that it can see when I'm busy in both interaction or both environments rather. Does anybody have any questions so far, or are we all good for me to keep on going there? Yeah. All right. What about this one? If you haven't played around with Google Docs, I'm going to show you a few things within Google Docs that I think are really cool. I always call it the app menu. I think the app menu is the coolest feature of Google Docs that got released about 2 years ago, but lots of people still haven't seen it. So what is it? Well, how do you get to app? Shift 2 and we see the app menu. Okay, and look at this. We've got all these things. And so lots of people go, well, what's the purpose of this? Well, I can go and, add a person in there. What I love it for, though, is I think about all the times when you're dealing with someone who's never experienced Google Workspace before. And the most common thing that as teachers we talk about is like formatting. And I don't know about you, but I find that not many people know what the shortcut is for page break. That's what this solves. So at page break, okay, you can chuck it in and look at that. I've put a page break in. I might not know in Google Docs how to put a bulleted list in. And so we can just go at bullet and we can just start typing. We're in a bulleted list now. So the app menu gives you access to probably some of your more common settings, like all these up on this top ribbon. You might even go, oh, I want this one to be heading number 2. You just literally type heading 2 and look at that. Now you've got your different style in there as well. Pretty cool. What else can we do? Well, I also like this one. So what about, you might have in your thing, you might have students and you might want them to do a quick task, but you want to know how long it took them to do it. So you can actually just put a stopwatch in there and then they can click play and, type, and then pause it. Now, of course, they can game the system, but that's not the point. But see, like that, it doesn't really look amazing. But what else can we do? So what else we can do is we can change the font. We can make that bigger so it stands out to our students a bit more. We can even change, the color of the text. We might want it red. We might say, I want it on a light green background so I can see it a bit nicer. And all of a sudden we've changed what our stopwatch looks like. Yeah. Or the other one is, what about the interactions? We're talking about creating time. What about the interactions with people? So we might be in a meeting and we're like, I need that checklist to say, hey, can you go email the parents for me. And what's this? Oh, it's just said I can assign tasks from Google Docs. So what I can do is I can go email the parents, click on this task, and go and sign that up to Luke Starzak, and he can go do this thing for me. Okay. You can put a date on that and say, look, I want it done by tomorrow, and assign a task. And then now I actually have that task. What I love about this though, oh, hang on. No, I cancel. It does prompt you to share it, but you don't have to. Email the parents. Oh, actually, I was meant to say I'm emailing the parents about the parent teacher interviews. And can you see how it's brought up that tab thing above? So have a look at the task now. Ready? So email the parents, but it said, hey, you've written something different. So it actually prompts you to go update. And now look at the task. Now the task says exactly what I just said it is. So this is a really useful activity when you're looking at meeting minutes in particular. And the cool thing about it is in the app menu, you've also got the meeting minutes. So it's just got a standard template in here. I can go and put in this creating time with Google Workspace, or I could do any of the other ones I've got here. I'm not going to do it. And then what it does is it adds like the people who are meant to be in the meeting and all that sort of stuff as well. Yeah. But that's using Google's template. What if our template's different? Like, what if we have a template for a meeting that's like, oh, I want actions here. You know, I might have an agenda up here. And I want this to be my template from now on. Like I want the date, I want the time, and I want to use that template. I don't want to use the one that Google made for me. Well, what we can do is we can highlight all of that. We can right click on it and save as custom building block. And we can say that this is my digital skills meetings and create that thing. Okay, you ready? And now we're just going to go to a new page. And if I go shift at digital skills, I can now go and click on that thing I just made. And oh, look at that. I've got my meeting agenda ready to go now. And I've just remade it. I love showing this one for schools because so often in schools, everyone has a different meeting template. You move sites across the system and every single school has something different about how they want their meeting stored. So save as custom building block will enable you to do that. Think about what that might be useful for in your work though. Like what are the other custom building blocks that you could make? I made one at my old school about, I made one about like the unit plan in general. Like what is my lesson plan? What do I sort of like it to look like? But have a look in here. We've got all these building blocks here. So these are all ones that Google have made. So you've got meeting notes in there. Email draft won't work for you because you don't have Gmail on. If you are a DT teacher or a coder, you can actually put code blocks in there and it's got like Python and C+ and all that. You can produce a general poll. So you can jump in and chuck a poll in there and then people can go in and vote. You can also change what that is. You can put people in there. There's all different things. The other one that I also like to use is variable or placeholder chip. So I'll explain those two to you. A variable chip is really beneficial. Let's say that we had task title and we wanted to put that here, but then further down our document, we also wanted to put the task title in. What we could use is we could use and create this template. And then when we go and copy the template, we can go and say, oh, my task, oh, that is, you know, exploring the universe. And now because we've used that variable chip, what it does is it actually puts it throughout that document. Can you see that? So think about the usefulness, once again, from a teacher perspective here, of you like creating a lesson plan. You might have a whole set of learning intentions sitting up the top, and then you might break the learning intentions out down the bottom. But by using the variable chip in your template, it will actually put all that stuff in automatically for you. The other one is a placeholder chip. So just a bit of a difference. So placeholders can be. So this is a good way for us to prompt our students in particular with what to do. We can put a person chip in there. So that's this one. We do a file as well, or a date, calendar event. Let's look at file. Let's see what that looks like. So if I click on file, I can, whoops. What I can do is I can then go, oh, I want to link the presentation I'm meant to be doing. I want to put that in there. You see how much nicer that looks rather than just the link? So much nicer. But you don't have to do it like that either. So let me just show you this. We can just copy this whole URL, copy that. Oop, wrong document. Paste that in here and then follow the prompt. Click tab, turns it into the chip as well. Once again, it's in Google Docs, so we don't have to stick with that size. So we could say, I want that to be size 30, so it sticks out that that's what it is. I also want to change the color of the text. Once again, like we did before, we can go and change what that looks like as well. Okay. The cool thing about it sitting in your document like this is you can also use a preview window now, which means that I can now go through my presentation just down here. Okay. Cool. All right. Hopefully that helps people. What else are we going to do? So I've got voting chips in there. As I said before, these are the instructions. Oh, by the way, I should have done this for you before. I apologize for that. What about another time-saving tip? Google Docs. Okay, so if you are sharing out the link, I just want to show you something. This here is the unique identifier for the actual document. On the end, I don't know if you've noticed this. This part here tells me the exact slide that I'm currently sitting on. I can get rid of that. And then in here, can you see how it says edit? So that means that anyone I give to this link defaults that they're going to see the edit view. I can change it to copy though. Have you ever seen this before? And so if I do copy, all I do, get rid of that edit part, change it to copy. Let's have a look when I paste this in what it does. So now it doesn't open up the document. It actually prompts the user to go and create a copy of that thing that I just made. So really useful when we're sharing stuff out with people. We might want to prompt them rather than editing our document. Hey, just make a copy of this thing that I made for you. As I said before, you know, we've got checkboxes as well. Right, I'm going to show you Google Vids now. Has anyone seen Google Vids? By the way, I should point this out. Some of these features you may not have access to, and that is because there are two different categories for Google Workspace. One is like the fundamentals license, and some of our schools in our system have access to Google Workspace Plus. If you are a school and you as a user do not have access to things like checkboxes, and Google Vids is a really good one to check that, you just need to get a ticket in to get Google Workspace Plus applied to your school. Okay, so it's not hard to do. The only thing we sort of check is that your school is actually using Google. So it's not really something that we just apply to one user in a system. But yeah, in general, if most users in your school are using Google, then we'll do that for you. So this is Google Vids. If you haven't seen it before, it's brand new. It got released sort of end of last year, start of this year. It's the newest app to Google Workspace. I think it's really cool because I think it completely changes how we interact with our students in the classroom, because previously we used apps and that sort of stuff that were external to Google stuff. And as you guys sort of understand that within Google Classroom, that it's really useful to sort of keep our students within that environment. So what does Google Vids look like? Well, it's this. It is simply just, and I'm just going to do this employee intro one as an example. It is a collaborative video generation tool. Okay. It is really, really powerful. Like I do some, you know, other webinars with another guy whose background is in film production. He was saying the capabilities of this are pretty significant. So what can we do in here? Well, we can do all the normal things we would think we would be able to do within a video generation. So we can, you know, go in here, we can drag sort of scenes around. You'll see that this looks very similar to Google Slides. What we can also do is we can, you know, insert a recording. So we can go and record something, chuck it in there. We can also do voiceovers. I love the voiceover stuff. So the voiceover stuff looks like this. I'll just show you this. So it might be something like introduce the class to, timelines in humanities. And if I click on record myself, what will happen is we can choose a few different ways to do that. We can go camera, screen and camera, screen or voiceover. I like doing the camera, and I'm going to show you why in a sec. So if I click on that, it brings up this screen, okay? And you can say, introduce the class to the timelines in humanities. So our choices for the teleprompter are either rolling or manual. There is a new feature coming soon that is not showing up on this account for some reason, which is called read along, which will actually mean that it listens to you talking, and it will actually scroll through the transcript for you, so that, you might be recording a lesson for some students, and you can actually use this. So I'd highly encourage you guys, if you're in the business of recording lessons for your students, use it like this. Other cool thing about Google Vids is it can also be used as a template like all the other Google Workspace apps. So if you go and put this into Google Classroom, you can say make a copy for each student, and it will also it will obviously give that template to each kid, and you can see them generating that. Like all the other Google Workspace apps as well, it's completely collaborative. So if I go and share this with you guys now, you could all actually just jump in. Okay, so that's Google Vids. Some other things in there, that when you play it, it plays it natively within the application. Once again, you can also download it as an MP4 so that you can put it on another system as well, or you can simply just export it to Drive. What's really good about it is when you're actually building the Google Vid, it's a massive file in your Google Drive. When you click export, either download or export to Drive, it actually shrinks it down a lot, which means it's heaps more accessible across all your different systems. Hey guys, that is pretty much all I was going to talk to you guys about today. In the slides, you'll see that I had a few more things in there. One of those is just to point out that there are some training sessions that Google run. One of those is the Back to School webinar series that ran at the start of this year. Feel free, jump on there and register, and that will let you gain access. Also, learn with Google. There was a Google Vids one. So if you like that Google Vids stuff I just showed you, a 45-minute session happened last Thursday, okay? And so you can go and see that Google Vids. Someone just said about the links aren't working. It's probably because you're not signed in with your department email address. So if you sign in with your @schools account, you'll be able to access this slide deck, but that's what you need to do. So up here, you need to make sure that you have that @schools address in there, because if it's your personal address, it won't work. All of those links should work though. If there's another link that someone's telling me that isn't working, please let me know. With these, they're free to register, but I just encourage you to register, because what it means is you actually just get access to everyone that's already happened as well. Another one is just that the Google Teacher Center is free training. Sign in with your @schools email address and it will save your progress and all that. It's a really good space. When I first started using Google about 8 years ago, that's where I started. It's really useful. And I also found that it gave me tips on ways to use tools that I hadn't thought about before. Like when I was doing that, it was the first time I even considered that a YouTube playlist might actually be a beneficial thing for kids in my classroom, because it filters that list down for them. Also, more information from us. I'm part of the DGU, but I also do obviously training for digital skills. On Plink, if you click on Explore and then go to digital skills in the menu, you will actually find the whole digital skills dashboard and see all the previous trainings that have happened, but also all the ones that are coming up. We've got at least one webinar every term on Google in specifically coming up. So feel free to go through there and have a look. We've got some exciting ones coming up as well that should be released within the next few weeks. So keep an eye out. But you also have the opportunity to sign up to the mailing list for digital skills on there as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you took at least one thing away from today's session.